coding is an expression of logic. It's a language of logic. But I learned the language of English and I learned the language of human. On one hand, I can talk to human beings. On the other hand, I can talk to machines, right? So I learned to talk to machines before I could talk to humans.
Hello, one and all. This is Jasneet Singh, aka Innovative Coder from Innovative Coder Workstation, and this is the third episode of Innovative Podcast, where we have Varun Mayya joining us. So, a little bit introduction of who is actually Varun Mayya. So, he's the CEO of Avalon Labs, ex-CEO of Jobspire, youngest entrepreneur to raise venture capital in India, and one of the youngest investors in India. So, welcome Varun Mayya to Innovative Podcast.
My pleasure, man.
Like a little bit introduction, like how you started and what's your journey?
Sure, man. So very quickly, I've been coding since forever, so very relevant to your crowd. I mean, I started coding at the age of, I think, 11 or 12. In fact, the first thing I tried to build was a game. So back in the day, we had something called the Raycaster engine. I don't know if you've heard of the Raycaster engine, very, very old stuff. I wanted to build a game for as long as I could remember. And then I joined a forum for an MMORPG game generator. It was called Eclipse. I worked with them for about 3 to 4 years, trying to learn game design. And, because I wanted to learn game design, I had to learn programming. I started a YouTube channel because I was really into gaming. So gaming was my gateway drug into, kind of learning how to code. And then at the age of 16, 17, before that, my parents were traditional Indian parents, right? They wanted me to get into IITs, do my IIM, get married, settle down, get a job. I mean, usual stuff. But, at that point, when I went to the IITs and I saw the IIT JEE paper, I was just like, this is not something I can do, right? This is not something I'm interested in doing. So I just left the paper blank. And in fact, right after that, somehow, through some grace, I got through MIT Manipal. And from the first year of college, I knew I didn't belong here, right? So I started, I ran a business in the first year. I got a lot of people together and we started selling t-shirts, very different from the coding days, right? But I learned how to sell for the first time ever. Till then, I was just, I knew how to write code. I knew generally, coding is an expression of logic. It's a language of logic. But I learned the language of English and I learned the language of human beings. So I always keep saying it like this, right? I mean, on one hand, I can talk to human beings. On the other hand, I can talk to machines, right? So I learned to talk to machines before I could talk to humans. And I started selling t-shirts, small things, right? And by the end of the first year, we had sold about 5,000 t-shirts, me and my small team. And then, we ended up moving to doing websites and web projects because, it's a little more friendlier on the effort side. Because t-shirts, see, the problem is if you sell a t-shirt for 300 rupees and your procurement costs 280 rupees, if you make one mistake and one person refunds the t-shirt, you have to sell at least 10 to 12 more t-shirts to make up. Right? So the effort to reward ratio is huge. So we ended up moving to websites where there's less effort. I started with Upwork. My first project, spent 3 months doing it. I got paid $100. Very small project. For me, it was important, right? Because it's pocket money. And, irony is that 2 years later, we were billing $150, $200 an hour. Very wasteful life. I go from hotel to hotel. I just spend the entire day in a hotel, work 1 hour during the day, and people just call me lazy, right? They'll be like, what are you doing? Like, I'm doing whatever I want to. So that's when, me and my team decided, let's take a risk. We have some money saved aside. Let's take a proper big risk. And we started Jobspire, which is, we said, Naukri.com has been doing this for a long time. Somebody has to disrupt it. So I built a platform that allowed people to find jobs they loved. And I'll tell you how I did it. In the 8th semester of college, you have to do an internship, right? But you have to do it under some company. But I didn't want to work for anybody else. I wanted to do my internship for myself. So what we ended up doing is we went to an accelerator in Delhi. And I'd never been to Delhi, by the way. So the only accelerator that accepted Jobspire, I told them, see, instead of you giving me an acceleration form, give me an internship form. And they said, okay, no big difference for us. And we ended up interning there, but I was working on my own product. We moved to Delhi. It was one of the hardest periods of my life because I didn't know anything about Delhi. It's very, very cold. 6 months we actually properly legit struggled there. But we ended up, making some things happen. We ended up, building a platform. I remember the first 100 customers that came on the platform, I spoke to them myself. And then, the story goes, it's a popular story now, which is we ended up raising venture capital. We ended up raising almost 1.7 crores, even before I got my degree, because we had still not got our degrees by that point. We scaled that platform to serve 4 million requests in 2016. We ended up selling it in early 2017. And, then I started Avalon Labs, which is, I don't want to work on one project, right? Or one company. I want to work on multiple different companies. We have investments all across the world. We have 6 different investments now. We have one in America, one in Singapore, multiple in India, so one in London. So we're diversifying, right? At the end of the day, if the traditional view of business is that okay, you can build a Jobspire on Ola or Uber or whatever, which is very specific. It's directed towards doing one thing. But for me, I want to build like an ecosystem, like the Reliances of the world, right? Which is a little bit in healthcare, a little bit in this, a little bit in that. Like it's more for me to have fun than anything, right? Me and my co-founder to have fun. So we built an extension of ourselves, and the company does that, and a lot of people here to help us, and that's what we built. We're now 55 employees. We have a services wing where we work with some of the biggest companies in the world, Fortune 500 companies, Series A, Series B companies, publicly funded. I mean, very well-funded companies. One backed by Andreessen Horowitz, the other one backed by Vinod Costa. So big investors, big companies. We just like helping them grow. We help them build products. Everything we've learned at Jobspire, basically applying for other startups. But coming back to where what our focus is, we just want to invest, man. I want to put money in as many interesting bets as possible. And if everything fails, then so be it, right? But so far, it looks like there's some good traction on a couple of the projects. And unlike any other VC, we put in the money ourselves. And see, there's this thing, right? When you're a VC and you raise other people's capital, most people don't know this, right? VCs raise capital from other people. It's not their own money. VCs are not rich. When you're sitting on the board of a company and the company is doing badly, you have this feeling in your gut where you really want to help, but you don't know how to. And what the VC ends up doing is irritating the founder because he doesn't know how to help. Whereas with me, I said, if I put money in a company and the company is not doing well, I want to be able to roll up my sleeve and ask the founder, how can I help? Can I hire you talent? What can I do? Right? Should I sit down and write code? You tell me how I can help. And dude, people love that, right? Founders love that. We have some amazing founders under our portfolio. Only two of our founders are Indian. The rest are people from all across the world. Wonderful relationships. And that's that, man. And I'm, somewhere in the middle, I wrote a book called Pajama Profit, which I don't know how ended up becoming a #1 Amazon business bestseller. To this day, it surprised me how we did it. But to be honest, we use the same growth techniques we've always used, right? So that's my story. Let me know what else you'd like to know.
You have a very cool introduction. So I have a lot of questions to ask Varun. Okay, Varun. So you told in your introduction that you are convenient with both understanding the human language and as well as the coding language, because this is the issue with me personally. I can solve a bug in a code, but I can't deal with people. So this is the issue with most of the people out there. That when you deal with people, you deal with emotions, right? So how do you handle that?
See, I might sound slightly like a psychopath for saying this, but I think even humans have algorithms, like simple algorithms. Obviously, every human being is different, but trying to decipher a human being is about understanding what ticks them, what works with them, and what works for them. And there are obviously some base rules, right? Etiquette, how to socially function, simple things like you go meet somebody, you shake hands, right? So learning those things, because there's no template to these things. Whereas with say you're writing a function, there's always an API reference you can pick up. But here, there's no API reference for human beings. How does human respond if I say this? How do they respond if I say this? And a lot of negotiation, especially business, is about playing mind games with the other person, right? So you're not sure what the other person's thinking. You don't know what they want, how much they're willing to pay, what's their budget. I mean, it's these are things that you will only get via experience. It's like trying to code without having an API reference. You make a lot of mistakes. And what I find is, especially developers are, and because I was a developer, right? The biggest fear is actually making mistakes and embarrassing yourself. And to be honest, when you're a developer, whatever mistakes you make, you can fix it very quickly, right? You can look up the API reference and you get frustrated, and that frustration actually drives you to fix the problem quickly in a day or 2 days. You know that feeling when you go to sleep and there's an unsolved bug.
Yes.
Whereas with human beings, if there's an unsolved problem, you keep thinking about it again and again and again. You had a fight with somebody, you're thinking about what that person said, what you should have said instead. But after a while, after making a lot of mistakes, experimenting, being through these situations, you know exactly what to say. It comes naturally. Just like today, when you're typing a function, you don't have to think about the parentheses. You don't have to think about the, say, if you're coding in C#, you don't have to think about semicolon, right? So it becomes natural. It becomes intuitive. But the only way it becomes intuitive, in my opinion, is with about 3 to 4 years of actual human-to-human interaction and experience. The first 1 year, I can guarantee you will embarrass yourself. Right? I think that is the biggest fear for most people. But the kind of person I was, I embarrassed myself back then. I still embarrass myself. So I think that should be part of your DNA.
Okay, cool. So you said that for doing your internship, you came to Delhi, right? So you did your internship in an accelerator, right? So what was the process? So like, how did you do all that? So first time when you are going to investors, so what should be actually taken care of, and what you had in your mind at that time?
Got it. See, when we were building the product, I had just one focus, right? I just wanted to build a platform that people use to find jobs. Now that's it. Very simple ask. And what I found when I started speaking to investors is I realized most investors are very old, right? They don't really understand most of the tech startups on today. Today I know that, right? Today I know that most investors don't know anything, right? They're familiar with the space, but at a distance. They're not hands-on in the space. But I didn't know that back then. So every piece of advice that was thrown at me, I was like, okay, yeah, this is something I should do. So every week we used to change the product because some investor said something. But now that I'm older, I've kind of realized that there is some complexity to every product, and the only way you're going to understand things is by doing it yourself. So I'll give you the same kind of funda that I gave you in the last question. The only way we progress with Jobspire is by doing things by ourselves. Right? We learned things by ourselves. We made mistakes by ourselves. I remember I've spoken to at least 200 customers. Like the first 200 people who use the platform, I spoke to them on the phone by myself. Right? That's my secret to success. You speak to everybody who uses your platform and you ask them what is wrong or what is good. That's it.
So, what do you think that what is better? Organically growing like what Reliance did, or taking money from investors, like most of the companies, most of the people today do, that they take money from investors, and then after taking all of these ABC rounds, they have a very less equity, and then they exit the company. So for example, Binny Bansal. So we all know who is Binny Bansal. He founded Flipkart, and then he exited from the company. He had very less equity, and but he gained a lot of money, and now he's investing in other companies. But at the same time, we guys know who is Binny Bansal, but the coming generations, they won't know like he founded Flipkart. So what's your comment on this whole scenario?
My question to you is, what is your goal? What is your purpose? Because see, some people, it's okay to start a company just to make money, right? And it's also okay to start a company to leave a legacy behind. See, if this was my first company, I would do exactly the same thing. I'd try to make some money. I try to sell the company for a decent amount of money. Right? That's what I would do. But because this is my second company, I want to build something larger than myself. Right? My first company, I'll tell you, it's pure selfishness. I just wanted to build things for myself. I want to make some money. But once you get past that, and I've said this many times, once you get past that initial, okay, let's do this for myself, you start thinking about, okay, how can we do this for something bigger? Right? And that's the birth of Avalon, because with Avalon, it's like the Reliance model, right? I'd rather grow organically. I'll grow slowly. I'm not making money for anybody else, because when you raise capital from investors, you have actually what is called a fiduciary duty to give them a return, right? So here, no such duty. I'm just going to do whatever I feel like doing. If I make mistakes, it's on me. No one to justify it to. No one to send reports to. So it's a different life, but it's also a slower life. Like today Avalon is valued at about 100 crores, but we could have been valued at 500 or 1,000 crores if I had taken VC money. But I would still prefer to grow slowly because there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to get to. I don't care whether I become a $1 billion company in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. I don't care. Right? Other people are like, no, as fast as possible. No, man, I'm never going to sell the company. I don't think I'm ever going to sell Avalon. I want to stick in here for the long run. And I think a lot more founders today are understanding that that's a viable option, right? Dude, you don't know the feeling when you start making like 10, 20 lakhs say, per month, and your burn is maybe 4, 5 lakhs, and you have so much excess capital. Why would you sell the company? You can just work on so many new, more exciting ideas. You never have to give up. The problem is with business like Flipkart is they're never profitable. Without VC money, they're dead. Right? So I don't like running such businesses. I've never run such businesses. And yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay. So you want to build like a legacy with, Avalon Labs?
See, after 2 or 3 generations, anyways, nobody cares about me. But it's not about legacy. It's about I want to do things on my own terms. I want less stress on a daily basis. I don't want to answer to anybody else. And I think I want to give my ideas a fair shot without anybody else's funda coming into the mix. Right? So that's what Avalon is. Avalon is an extension of my ideas. Avalon is an extension of what I want to do. And not just me, but also my co-founder. And today, as the company grows, even the core team gets a big say in what Avalon does. So it's, like I said, I'm working on something bigger than me. I don't care about my legacy. I care about Avalon's legacy. And it's a strange feeling. It's just something that you have to be very mature to understand. Luckily, I was gifted to be a little mature because again, like I said, I'm an expert at embarrassing myself very early.
Okay. Okay. So Varun, if a founder doesn't know technology, like he ain't from technical background and he's not able to code, right? So and he doesn't has investment also, right? So what should be the process of this kind of founder? How should he grow?
See, I believe firmly that if you build something other than a technology company today, you're gonna suffer, right? Because every other company in your space will be a technology company, and they will always go faster than you, and you will not know why, right? So, my advice: learn how to code. Like it's now non-negotiable. It's like you asking me in the 1970s, "Oh, should I learn English or not?" Right? In India, in 1970s, if somebody asked you, "Hey, my Hindi is perfect, but this English thing, everyone's talking English. Should I learn it?" Today, if you don't learn English, you will not pass school. And I can tell you in the next 20 years, if you don't know how to code, you will not pass school. Right? It's fundamental to human knowledge. And there's so many things that are connected around us. How can you not know how to talk to them? You're useless, in my opinion, right? So yeah, you better learn how to code, and then all your problems. Like everyone thinks if you capture this magical, mythical unicorn called CTO, you'll suddenly have a sudden success. But that's not true, right? And those guys don't want to work with you. So become a coder yourself. This is my issue, right? I needed to learn how to code because nobody else would code for me.
Okay, nice. Varun, one thing I personally like about you is that you structure your answers very well. So when you're answering someone on or in meta course also I have seen this that you speak so well. So how do you structure your answers? Like even I have ideas, but I'm not able to convey. I'm not able to convey my ideas to other people, right? So even people like me have used teleprompter in my YouTube videos. So what advice to people like me who have used teleprompter and like do all of this thing and are not able to structure their answers?
So I think it's purely about experience, right? Because I've been doing this for 10 years. Like most people don't realize that. They think, okay, he's 26 years old, he's young, he's probably been doing this for 6 months, but that's not true. 10 years ago, if you asked me to sit in front of a camera and make meta startup videos, I promise you I would need like 5 teleprompters, right? So it's just experience. You do it for a long, long, long time. It comes naturally. I'll give you an example. The first time I spoke on stage, I and this is when I was very young, I think in the 8th or 9th grade, I actually peed my pants. Right? So I was so scared of speaking on stage, and the teacher told my parents that I have stage fright and I'm never going to get anywhere. And my mom just made me practice. She just said, "You are not going to be known as somebody who has stage fright. You go practice." She made sure I went to every debating event, every elocution event. She just made me practice so much that I became an expert. Right? It's a pure practice thing. And at that time, I was too young to know what fear was. I mean, I knew I could feel fear, but I had no choice because I was like, either I feel fear or my mom will hold a stick and beat me up. So I had to face my fears because I was more afraid of the stick. So yeah, that's something I thank my mom for. But yeah,
Okay.
practice. Give it 4-5 years. You can't be an expert overnight.
Yeah, fine. So, Varun, in your book Pajama Profit, you have talked about freelancing a lot, right? So you generated a whopping 30 lakh revenue during your college life. But don't you think like now it is kind of saturated, and people are doing this like in a huge number, so there's more crowd on this side, on freelancing side, and people are doing it for very low wages as well. So, so what's your
See,
take in?
many
Yeah,
things. See, at the end of the day, when a market gets bigger, it also means there's more on the demand side also, no? So if you're doing freelancing in say something like data entry, you're probably going to have very poor results, right? Because everyone's doing it. Everyone can do it. If you're doing digital marketing, there are thousands of digital marketing guys. Some people are doing digital marketing at $1, right? Some people from Philippines. So it's all about how skilled you are and in what skill. If you say you're a good Ruby on Rails freelance developer or you're a good React freelance developer, I can guarantee you wherever you are, if you're half good at least, you will be able to land a freelance job. In fact, see the advantage of freelance is not the fact that you make more money. You make about the same money as if you had a job. In India, obviously, you make more money because there's a price parity at play.
yeah,
But in the US, if you're a freelancer, I think you'll end up making slightly less. The advantage of a freelance career is you work at your own pace. You don't have to listen to other people, as in you don't have a boss breathing down your neck. But usually, if you work in any, like if you start freelancing for a bigger company, you'll realize they still have the same processes. There will still be a kind of person who's a boss and all that. But it's just different, yeah. I mean, it's more relaxed. You get to work at your own pace. Those are the advantages of freelance. The advantage is not you make more money, but in India, yeah, you make more money. But I think there's so much space available for freelance. It's all about in what segment. So if you can learn how to code, especially for your audience, a lot of freelance, a lot of things, a lot of opportunities on the freelance side.
Okay, so what about this, teaching industry? So, teaching students in institutes, like you become an instructor. So, how do you compare freelancing with this profession? Because, I have tried both of them. I have done freelancing as well on Upwork, and I have taught students in institutes. So, seeing the growth rate of education industry as well, because there are like number of institutes, in Delhi only I can see there are tons and tons of institutes who are teaching students machine learning, who are teaching students like these skills, web development skills. So what's your take on this?
So I mean, I'm not a big fan of the instructor model because, I mean, as a way to make money, because see, at the end of the day, most top companies, see, when you freelance at the lower level, right, it's purely about how, like, you make a creative or you've written some code. But at the higher level of freelancers, especially when you start touching the $50 to $100 mark, it's about performance, right? It's purely about performance. How, what, how well does your product perform? How well do your marketing creative perform? It's performance based marketing, right? It's performance based code. So with instructors, if you are graded based on how well your students do, that's fine. But if you're just paid a fixed salary to teach your students, it's a waste of time, right? And you're never going to be paid. See, the people who are paid the most in the world are always paid a percentage of another person's success or outcome, right? That's what shares are or stocks are. One of the
Yeah,
best way to make money is because you have a percentage of you're betting on somebody else's outcome, right? Whereas in one of these static job roles where you get paid 20,000 rupees as an instructor, whether your student becomes very good or becomes very bad, it really doesn't matter, right? So in those sort of scenarios, it's really choose a role which has a performance based outcome, right? That's all I. That's my.
So Varun, when you started, you also would be having some mentors in your life,
Mhm.
right? So what's the value of mentors? How your value, how they add value in your life.
See, the thing about mentors is sometimes you already know the answer to something, right? A lot of people ask me questions. They're like, oh, should I run a startup, which I really like doing, or should I do an MBA, which my parents are forcing me to do? They already know the answer to that, right? They just need the answer to come out of my mouth. So I have some very good mentors. In fact, I have Ravi Srivastava, who used to be a ex Wall Street broker. He runs a VC firm in Chicago. I used to have Ankur Wariko, who's the CEO of Nearby. In fact, at that time, they had sold a company to Groupon, so he was a mentor. I had Anshumani Rudra, who's the ex-VP product of Practo, who's the ex-VP product of Hike. So I had very good mentors. And I'll tell you one thing about my mentors. I met all my mentors offline, right? I didn't meet them on the internet. I met them in person. And I said, you cannot gain a mentor over the internet unless they're bad mentors. See, the best mentors don't have much time, right? That's what unifies all of them. So yeah, I mean everyone needs mentors, and in fact, the platform that we're building next has a very interesting mentorship module. So let's see if that will help a few people get mentors.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah. So this is a kind of a case study problem. So suppose your employees sign an NDA, right? You have an employee NDA and you make them sign the form, and then they leave you and start something of their own. So what are the legal actions one can take at this particular stage?
See, did your employees steal any of your clients? Because if your employees stole your clients, then that falls under something called non-solicitation, and you can actually sue your employees for it. But what I found is in India, right, whatever your employees do, even if they steal company data, there's really nothing you can do. Because in India, legal battles are drawn out for 10, 15 years. Really, I mean, you please be safe with your data, please be safe with your protocols, please be safe with your clients, because suing somebody in India doesn't work, right? I'm telling you, it doesn't work. And we have tried. We had employees who, just put us in very bad situations, given us, crazy amount of shock. But you can't sue them, right? Even like if you have lawyers, and we have some of the best lawyers, right? Um, our lawyers just they were like, yeah, you cannot sue this person. And even if you sue this person, you will end up wasting time and money. This person has nothing to lose. He just file bankruptcy and walk off. So yeah, you can't. Don't worry about NDAs and stuff like that. Try to build as quickly as possible. Always assume there are 10 competitors.
Yeah. So you're talking about a service-based startup, right?
Even a
If
product,
you have a
even a product startup.
even a
Whatever
product
type of
based
startup you're running, you're just assume that there is always competition and every employee of yours can start the same company tomorrow. I think you should be less worried about that, because people who buy your product care about the brand. Try to build a good brand, because see, there are 7,000 different marketing automation tools out there. Yet all of them have, decent niche. All of them are making money. Most of them are making money. It's because brand, location, identity, all of that matters. It's not the product. It's not the code base itself.
So, Varun, there are like open source developers, right? And what they do is they contribute in open source repositories, and they work hard all day and all night. So I had one of my followers who was working with a US based Silicon Valley based company, and they had their all code open source, right? So, my question is, what's the benefit of doing this? Because at the end, these kind of companies don't have a good revenue model. Because I knew that that company don't have a good revenue model. So, you know, is there any benefit of investing your time in those kind of things?
See, if you're a founder of an open source software, there is a lot of ways you can make money, right? Especially if in the US. Best example is Red Hat, right? Red Hat had full open source software. You can just even Linux, right? You can just download. You can use it however you want. But then they have something called custom support, where you know they have people who can help you with the software, especially for enterprises like a Microsoft. If they want to use Red Hat, somebody can sit down and help them with it. That's like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So you can build open source software and just be like, if you want to learn how to use this, or if you want me to train your employees on how to use this, that's expensive, right? And I find that works really well, because the cost of adoption for a company is zero. They can get the software they want, but to use it, you need somebody else's help. And that's a very good business model. But in India, if there's a company selling, just contributing open source, it seems like a passion project. But in general, I love employees or just generally coders working on open source because there's a lot you can learn, right? You get to think about it. You get to work with some of the best in the industry by contributing to that project because you both are working on the same project. And I think for developers now, open source commits are like your resume, right? You can lie on resume very easily and say, yeah, I know C++, this, that, whatever. But if you look at somebody's open source, like you just see their GitHub streak, you'll be like, okay, this guy has contributed to this project, this person understands this person understands this. I will always choose somebody who has, say, worked on 5 or 6 open source projects than somebody who's worked on 0, always, right? Regardless of the cost, especially for a development role. So, yeah.
Okay, fine. So, Varun, as you are also an engineer, I'm also an engineer. So I have seen this trend that we have kind of a mathematical mind, right? So, how to be more creative? Because ideas I see today, they are like, just normal ideas which people are working on. And I kind of see them as a mathematical kind of thinking. So how to be more creative?
See, creativity comes from just, again, like I said, experience, being able to break things down first. I give you the example. I always give the example of playing a piano, right? When you play a piano, you learn how do you learn a piano? How do kids learn how to play the piano? They listen to a famous song, like say Baba Black Sheep, simple song, and they will play it on the piano. They will know the strokes to play Baba Black Sheep. Then they will start playing more and more complex pieces. Eventually, they will say, okay, going from the A note to the B note sounds good, but going from the B note to the A note doesn't sound good, right? So eventually, you know which patterns work well. And then suddenly they're like, okay, what if I played Baba Black Sheep, but instead of the A note to the B note, I did an A note to the C note, which I got from this other song, which is Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So you play a little bit of mix and match. And creativity, I promise you, is all about mix and match. But first, you need to be able to break any song down. You listen to a song, you're able to break it down into its individual notes, and you're able to play it, and then you're able to add a note or change a note here and there. Everything that I've created in my life for the first time ever, it's all mashups of things that I've done in the past or things that other people have done. There's no such thing as originality, So, and there's no such thing as creativity either. So, it's all about being able to break something down and adding your own flavor or adding somebody else's flavor to it.
Okay, right. So when people today do MS in entrepreneurship as well. So there are around like courses, dedicated courses. Yeah, I know, but do you think starting your own company requires that kind of knowledge that you need to invest a complete year or like 9 months or 12 months in doing an MS in entrepreneurship?
I'll ask you a better question. I'm not going to answer this question. I'll ask you a better question. Do you think doing a master's in learning how to swim without actually swimming, just learning how to swim, like, you'll read a lot of documents, you can do a lot of, we'll give you textbooks about it, you can do group discussions about it, but will it teach you how to swim?
Not at all.
Exactly. In fact, business is 100 times harder than swimming, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. Okay. So, a lot of my friends have were freelancers in like around second year and third year, but now as we are moving forward in life, so what they have done is they have started their own freelancing company. So they take a project, the same model that you do today, so that you have already done in past. So what is your advice to these kind of startups? Like, should they focus more on marketing, or like, because I have seen tons and tons of companies. So my friends have done that, and they struggle a lot finding clients, getting clients on board, then regular customers. What's your take on this?
Cool, man. So I think these companies need to learn how to sell, right? Because see, getting regular customers is a function of two things: your ability to sell and your reputation, right? So your ability to sell is about how well can you do cold calls, how well can you do cold emails, how well can you do referrals. That's these three things. And your reputation is basically inbound leads, right? The more you are well known, the more people say, okay, you should go work with Avalon. Right now, most of our deals come in through referrals, but we still have a sales team doing cold calls and cold emails, right? So I think please learn how to sell. I think I've made a couple of videos about one of the meta startup videos about cold calling. I don't think it can get more concise and more relevant than that. learn. Just watch that video 3-4 times. If you really understand that video, you should be able to cold call well. And if you can cold call well, and if you have a list, you should be able to get in anybody to give you a meeting. Once you get a meeting, that's a potential client. But you have to put in the work. You have to put in the work. Everybody's in sales, dude. Even if you're a developer, you're into sales.
So, Varun, you have heard about angel tax, right? And I think as you are investor, so you have suffered from that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your take on like paying tax on taxable savings? So, don't you think this is like negative point for investors?
So yeah, I mean, we actually had some issues with angel tax. I put up a flurry of tweets against it. I met Mohandas Pai on about the angel tax. I mean, we've been going back and forth about this, right? Especially with Avalon, because some of our investments are Indian companies. And last I checked, they fixed it, right? So you just have to go to DPIIT. They have a website. I don't know what the name of the website is. You just tell them what type of startup you are, and all of our startups have got angel tax exemption. So I think it was just a mistake because, see, I'll tell you why they did this, right? Say you're a celebrity and you have a lot of money and you put money into some company, right? And say the company's valuation today is $10 million. And tomorrow you can just claim that the company's valuation is zero and you've lost so much money. But in reality, that company need not even exist, right? The earlier valuation of $10 million could just be a fake valuation. So government said, okay, you need a way to value companies. You can't just value companies at 100 million, 500 million or whatever, and then, just say it's zero tomorrow, right? They have to justify that they're worth $500 million. Otherwise, you can't show losses just like that, because see, then people can avoid paying tax because I can just keep showing losses on my company. I know why they created it. Some few ministers were doing this, or some people, famous people are doing this. And then they just realized that, the same rules can't apply to startups, because at the earliest stage, if you're making less than 10 crores, then it's stupid, right? To levy something like angel tax. But otherwise, at bigger sizes, you can actually get away with a lot of money laundering if you don't have this. So I understand both sides of the equation. And I think now DPIIT, they've solved this issue, the last that I've seen it. Well, I think the website is startupgov.in or something like that. Just check it out.
Okay, fine. So the last question, right?
Sure.
Varun, when an investor like you is investing in a company, right? So do you invest in the parent company or you invest in the product? So one company has a lot of products, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you invest in the parent company or the product?
It really depends on the investor, because usually most investors want to invest in the parent company, but sometimes people invest in the products as well. See, in Avalon's case, for example, when our companies start getting big enough, other investors, like bigger investors, come and invest in those companies. But whereas if you're a first-time entrepreneur and you have multiple different companies, an investor would want your attention and focus on one company, right? So when you're young, when you're a small company, or when you're a young entrepreneur, you should be focusing on one thing. And as obviously you get bigger and you're able to build that brand and that reputation, then it's okay for you to work on multiple companies. A good example of this is Star. You know Star? They have Hotstar, right? So Hotstar is one of their subsidiaries, one of their products. And only Hotstar has raised capital very recently. Whereas in most cases with the smaller companies or younger companies, people would invest directly at the Star level. So it really depends on where you are as a company and how well known you are. Again, dude, you can sell anything in any form, in any way, as long as you can justify it.
Okay, fine. So we had an awesome session, right? So we discussed about a lot of things.
Fun, man. Yep.
Okay. Thank you. So this was Varun Mayya with us. I hope you guys would have liked the session.
Okay.
Fine.
Thanks, Jasmeet. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Varun. Thank you for being on this podcast episode. Okay. Bye-bye.
My pleasure.